Matt Walsh on Dr. Phil. Let's get into this. Please like, subscribe, and share if you care. This is the State of the Nation by the Rob Wilson. Of course, if you haven't heard, Matt Walsh appeared on Dr. Phil talking about the current gender identity politics going on in our nation and in our schools. Check it out.
All new Dr. Phil. The dispute over gender pronouns.
I don't identify exclusively with being a man or a woman. I use they and them as my pronouns.
You don't get your own pronouns.
You think it's a delusion.
In school, our kids are being asked what their pronoun is.
This is a war on gender.
Babies are babies without a known sex.
Babies. They are people whose parents are willing to categorize them as basically other or unknown from the date of their birth until the child picks what their gender is. It's sad.
They were born, we did not assign a sex.
You think it's toxic to label?
Assign a sex. There are people this messed up who believe that what someone is biologically when they're born is an assignment.
Child one way or the other. Well, I have a question. Raise your hand if you have heard of gender pronouns such as he, she, or they, and Z or V. Raise your hand if you're confused about how to use them in today's social climate.
I'm not confused, I'm just unwilling to use them, and that's what we all need to worry about, is the fact that these people are not just wanting to use them personally, they want to impose their will on others to compel us and force us to use these pronouns, especially if it goes against our religious beliefs and convictions. And they want to impose these pronouns on our babies, on our children, against our will, without our freedom of speech.
Yeah. I'm asking these questions because approximately 1.2 million people in the U.S.
There's 330 million plus people. So he said, what did he say, 1.3 million people are identified as this. So this is like 0.33% of the population. Campaigning, and this is where this intersectionality and critical theory and this Marxist ideology, this is why Kimberly Crenshaw came up with the concept of intersectionality, getting these different groups to come together to campaign cooperatively for one another. How could 0.33% of the population impose their will on the rest of the nation? Is that right? Is that justice? Is that even democracy?
U.S. identify as non-binary, meaning they don't identify as she or he, but they and other pronouns. Now, as society's attitudes about...
I didn't have a whole lot of regard for Dr. Phil before this episode. I have even less for him now, because he essentially is meandering into the public sphere because he can't take a stand for or against anything, because it'll affect his base and his audience, of course. So he's a man who can't actually stand for anything, in my opinion.
Gender are continuously evolving. The practice of specifying one's pronouns is relatively new. Now, I just want to say...
Because in the largest part of human history, it would be considered a mental illness. But sadly, we have allowed it to come to this.
I don't have all the answers, not even close.
No kidding. It's not even close, and you have even fewer answers than I thought you had, and not even close. But the Bible does. In the beginning, God created them male and female. Male and female, he created them.
But I'm...
All new Dr. Phil. The dispute over...
So let's go to this. That was the intro. That was the beginning. Matt Walsh is getting ready to come on. Check the audience out. Check out the audience applause and reaction to the ideology of this particular mindset. They eat this stuff up. So this is when Matt Walsh comes on and proposes a rational and opposing viewpoint.
Logically created.
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be mental illness. My name is Matt Walsh, and I've written a book called Johnny the Walrus. This book is about identity and imagination. He identifies as a walrus, and his mom's a little silly. She takes it seriously and thinks he really is a walrus. So she went on her phone, and there are people telling her that this isn't pretend. He's really a walrus. And his mother takes him to the doctor to have him surgically transitioned and gets him walrus hormone pills, and then eventually tries to drop him off at a zoo to live with other walruses. Not only topping the Amazon charts, my book has taken the world by storm.
Well, you just saw my next guest, author and conservative host of Daily Wire's The Matt Walsh Show, talking about his recently published children's book that has since been removed online by a popular large retail chain. Now, Matt...
Wow, that doesn't seem... You're allowed to promote any other ideology and identity and viewpoint and opinion, but you can't present anything that opposes that, okay? And actually, in fact, this is where this has come to. I can't even actually make this video without the possibility of it getting some kind of community guidelines strike or taken down or canceled, or my channel canceled.
That says gender is not a social construct, but rooted firmly in biology. True?
True, absolutely. Well, actually, just to clarify, and with all due respect, but most of what we just heard in the previous segment was total nonsense, which is why when you were pushing for definitions and that sort of thing, they were not able to provide it because it's just nonsensical. Sex, well, as human beings, we have a sex, male or female. That is a biological scientific fact. Now, gender is a linguistic term. Words have gender. People don't.
You're saying that there should be no construct of gender, just sex. You're either male or female.
Right.
And someone feeling in a mental, emotional way that they don't identify with the sex that they have been biologically created as and assigned at birth based on their genitalia.
There you go. I mean, Dr. Phil categorizes and classifies it as a gender assignment rather than a biological reality. So you see which side of this fence he's on, and his audience is going to be shown to be on soon.
They don't feel that way, that there's no construct that describes that, experiences that.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the reality. So you can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception you want, but you can't expect me to take part in that self-perception or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production. You don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own prepositions or your own adjectives. You know, it's like if I were to tell you, my adjectives are handsome and brilliant, and no matter whatever.
Okay. Like, can I tell you that my adjectives are, I have long flowing hair and I'm 25 years old? You know, can I describe myself chronologically and physically to not be what I actually am? That's why this is utterly a delusion. It's utterly a lie that people are co-signing upon instead of just telling folks, you are deluded. So he can't say he's brilliant and handsome like he just said. Let's go on.
You're talking about me, you have to describe me as handsome and brilliant because that's how I identify. Makes no sense. You don't get your own pronouns. That's grammar, that's language.
So you think it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional?
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be a mental illness. It could be it's a lot of different things. With children, wow. You know, there's also.
Now, notice that. Well, I didn't play the whole clip of earlier in their entirety, but they have already said a lot of rhetoric before he came out, and there was no one out there during the time period while they said their rhetoric. Matt was behind the scenes waiting to come out. So, you know, it's not okay. You can have your feelings, you can have your opinion, you can have your pronouns, but the problem isn't that you have them, that you want to impose them on everyone else. That's what the problem is. So that's why this live and let live idea doesn't work with these people. They will not. It's a forced coercion, a coerced confession. That's what they want. That's the danger of identity politics.
So just a basic confusion that all kids have. Like, that's why when you hear someone, a parent say, "Oh, my 4-year-old son came to me and said that I'm a girl now, and so that's what I'm gonna raise him as a girl." No, you're a 4-year-old. I have 4 kids. When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm a girl," here's a good follow-up question: what is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do, like play with the dollhouse, or you know, he likes the color pink. That's fine, play with the dollhouse, but you're still a boy. And that's a question I would like to throw out to other members of the panel, actually, because just like the 4-year-old can't answer what is a girl, well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology, is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. It's like, what is a woman?
Well,
can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't. Because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how
that's
do you define a female?
someone with female reproductive organs.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing, when you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies, we could dig up their bones 100 years from now. We have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting.
It's ingrained in our DNA whether we're male or female. You hear that? 100 years from now, you can dig up someone's bones, and in the fiber of their DNA, it says male or female. So Christians are anti-scientific and anti-intellectual, except when we're using an intellectual argument with facts over feelings, and then we have to go with feelings. We have to go with on faith. On not only we can't rely on our own faith, we got to rely on someone else's faith. That's why this identity. This is a religion. This is a religious, spiritual warfare.
So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female. You said, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Is a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? Cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, but maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not myself.
You used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right. So here's the thing.
He's asking for an answer. He's not interrupting you. He's saying, could you stop with this emotionally driven rhetoric and tell him, define what you're talking about. What is the definition of what you're saying? You have no definition because it's not based in reality.
Not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood.
How do you know that? I mean, how do you know you shouldn't? If you have no definition of it, how do you know you shouldn't identify as a woman with no definition of a woman? It's insanity. It's literally.
It's something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
that describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Okay. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently. And so trans women are women too.
Okay.
Listen to this audience. Let me back this up a minute. Listen to this audience applaud this nonsense.
And so trans women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on. You want to reduce.
Listen. Even tell me what the word means, though. So
you want to reduce
problem.
women. You want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes, right? That's what you're saying.
You want to do
that's what you
want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood.
Okay.
And turn it into basically a costume that could be worn. we've got when we.
As
Hey,
a
it's real
man,
funny.
you're
It's real
literally
funny. It's
saying
real funny
what a
when
woman
you're.
should look
Yeah,
like.
right.
As a man, you're literally saying this is what a woman is.
Yeah. Well,
Isn't that a little sexist?
How could it be? Since you don't know what a woman is, this man does, and he probably knows what his definition of a man is, which you don't probably have a definition for that either. So how can it be sexist? Because according to you, there doesn't even have to be. It's his definition of it, by the way. You know, well, wait a minute. Oh, well, making up your own definitions only works for you. Okay.
I am willing to define it, but you won't.
Hang on. We've heard how Matt feels about pronouns, but my next guest says those who oppose them are asking the wrong.
This next guest, I'm not going to do all this at once. I'm already deeper into this than I wanted to be. Comes up with a doozy of a question. So the next time I put up the rest of this or my next half of this, check it out because it's a bunch of nonsense. Telling people they're asking the wrong questions and also, lots to find out. Well, go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Is this something that you can make up? Why? Let me go back up here. Why doesn't it apply to everything else? I mean, why can't you apply this reason and logic to anything and everything else? So, like I've said before, it doesn't apply to race. I can't be, it's pretty much socially unacceptable for me to say I'm a I'm a black man, or I'm a Japanese woman, or I'm North Korean. You can't do that. Also, I mean, if you have these pronouns that you can just accumulate and associate with whatever pronoun you wish, and like he said, you can't do that with adjectives. What about verbs? I mean, I'm at work, I'm drinking coffee, I'm shooting the breeze with my coworkers, and my boss comes up and says, "Why aren't you working?" And why can't I make up my own verbs and say, "Well, I am working." You're not doing what I define as working. Well, you have your definition of working, and I have my definition of working. What about exercising? Why doesn't it apply to exercising? I mean, my doctor tells me I need to go out and get, more exercise. I need to put in some miles. I need to do some walking. I need to do some jogging, and and I'm sitting here doing these videos. Why can't I say I'm running right now? Why? But it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. We don't get to make up our own reality because God has given us in His Word the definitions of male and female. He's given us this in the very fiber and DNA of our being. Well, drop a comment, like, subscribe, and share if you care. This is Brother Rob Wilson, just asking for your perspective. And is this more critical theory madness, or is this the state of our union? Is it time to take back our union and stand up for, because in Canada, they've already passed laws requiring people, compelling people to use pronouns. Compelling now, I've heard that now it's against the law to do or mention or even bring up deconversion therapy to help people come to their right mind and their right and God-given gender identity. Okay, so it's illegal, and churches can be closed, and pastors can be arrested for suggesting, recommending, or offering deconversion therapy. Peace and love in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Freedom of speech means more than saying. It means not being compelled to say something that is out of alignment with the Word and will of God. Peace.